I never believed a clean house could save a broken heart. After my father died, silence became the loudest thing in my life. The mansion he built suddenly felt too large for one person. Every hallway echoed with memories. Every dinner tasted like regret. Friends stopped calling after I turned down invitation after invitation. Work became an excuse to avoid living. I convinced myself that being alone was easier than risking more pain. Then she arrived carrying nothing but a small suitcase, a warm smile, and an old notebook filled with housekeeping schedules. I thought she was there to dust shelves and cook meals. I had no idea she had actually been sent to protect my heart. Or that one day I would fall hopelessly in love with the woman my own mother had secretly hired to watch over me. The first time I met Emma, I barely looked up from my laptop. "My name's Emma," she said politely. "Mrs. Carter asked me to help around the house." I nodded. "Kitchen's over there." She smiled without offense. "I'll figure everything else out." That should have been the end of our conversation. Instead, it became the beginning of everything. At 34, I had built one of Seattle's fastest-growing software companies. Money wasn't a problem. Time wasn't either. I had plenty of it. What I didn't have was purpose. After Dad's heart attack 18 months earlier, something inside me simply stopped moving. My mother lived in Arizona near my younger sister and called every week, begging me to visit. I always found an excuse. "I'm busy. Next month. After this project." The truth was simpler. If I admitted I was lonely, it would become real. Emma never pushed. She simply worked. Within days the house looked different. Fresh flowers appeared on tables. Windows were opened every morning. Music quietly floated from the kitchen while breakfast cooked. Life slowly returned to rooms I had forgotten existed. One Saturday morning I wandered downstairs expecting another frozen breakfast sandwich. Instead I smelled cinnamon. Emma stood at the stove making pancakes. "Good morning," she said. I didn't know people still made breakfast from scratch. She laughed. My grandmother would have fainted hearing that. I found myself smiling. It felt unfamiliar. Weeks passed. Our conversations grew longer. She told me about growing up on a small farm in Iowa. I admitted I hadn't taken a vacation in 4 years. She teased me for owning 12 identical blue dress shirts. I teased her for alphabetizing my spice rack. She shrugged. It was bothering me. Normal people don't alphabetize paprika. Successful people appreciate organization. I laughed harder than I had in months. One evening I came home exhausted after losing an important client. Emma noticed immediately. "Tough day?" I blew it. She quietly placed a mug of hot chocolate beside me. "No speeches?" She shook her head. "Sometimes people don't need advice." "What do they need?" "Someone willing to sit beside them." So she did. For almost an hour. Neither of us spoke much. Oddly enough, it helped more than any motivational speech ever could. Winter arrived. Snow covered the backyard. One Saturday Emma convinced me to build a snowman. "I have a billion-dollar company. And? I shouldn't be rolling snowballs." "Exactly why you should." She handed me gloves. An hour later we stood laughing beside the ugliest snowman ever created. Its carrot nose kept falling off. "You realize nobody would believe this happened," I said. "They don't have to." That night I caught myself thinking about her smile. Not once. All evening. That terrified me. She worked for me. She deserved respect, not complicated emotions. So I tried creating distance. I stayed later at work. Skipped breakfast. Avoided conversations. Emma noticed. She didn't complain. She simply became quieter. The house felt cold again. After nearly 2 weeks she knocked on my office door. Did I do something wrong? Her question hit me harder than I expected. No. Then why are you avoiding me? I couldn't answer honestly. Because I was falling in love. Instead I said, I've just been busy. She nodded, though neither of us believed it. Christmas approached. Mom announced she was visiting. I can't wait to finally meet this wonderful housekeeper, she said over the phone. I frowned. You've never met? No. She paused. But I've heard wonderful things. That seemed strange. Who had been telling her? When Mom arrived, something immediately caught my attention. Emma opened the front door. Their eyes met. For just a second. Long enough to recognize each other. Long enough to exchange a smile that wasn't meant for me. My stomach tightened. During dinner they occasionally shared glances. Inside jokes. Small smiles. Something wasn't right. The next morning I walked into the kitchen earlier than usual. Mom and Emma stopped talking the instant they saw me. The room fell silent. What were you discussing? Mom answered too quickly. Recipes. Emma looked down. That afternoon curiosity became suspicion. While searching for Christmas wrapping paper in Mom's guest room, I accidentally knocked over her purse. A folded envelope slipped onto the floor. My name wasn't on it. Emma's was. Inside sat several checks. Monthly payments. Signed by my mother. Along with one handwritten note. Thank you for watching over Daniel. I know he doesn't realize how much he needs someone right now. Please don't tell him I asked you to stay close. He'll only push everyone away. My hands started shaking. Watching over me? I confronted Mom immediately. You hired Emma. She closed her eyes. I can explain. So every conversation. Those were real. Every kind thing she did? Real. But she came because you paid her. Mom's voice cracked. I was scared. I'm not a child. No. She looked directly into my eyes. You're my son who stopped living after losing his father. Silence. I couldn't reach you anymore. So you sent someone to spy on me? To make sure you ate. To make sure someone noticed if you disappeared for days. Her tears began falling. I'd rather have you angry than alone. I walked out before saying something I'd regret. Emma packed her suitcase before sunset. I'll leave tonight, she whispered. You don't have to. I think I do. Were you reporting everything to my mother? She swallowed hard. Only at first. My heart sank. So it was all fake. She stepped closer. No. When did it stop being a job? The day you sat outside during that rainstorm holding your father's old fishing hat. I remembered. She had silently handed me an umbrella. I realized then you weren't rich. She smiled sadly. You were grieving. And everything after that? I stayed because I wanted to. She wiped away a tear. I fell in love with the man who thanked me every time I made coffee. The man who secretly donated computers to the children's hospital without telling anyone. The man who believed he had nothing left to offer. Her voice trembled. I wasn't watching you anymore. I was choosing you. She picked up her suitcase. I hope someday you believe that. Then she left. The house became silent again. Only this time, silence hurt. For weeks I replayed every memory. The pancakes. The snowman. The hot chocolate. The quiet conversations. None of them had looked rehearsed. None had felt fake. Eventually I called Mom. I'm still upset. I know. But, thank you for caring enough to make a terrible decision. She laughed through tears. I've made worse. So have I. The next morning I drove 3 hours to Iowa. Emma had returned to help her elderly grandmother run the family farm. When she opened the front door, surprise covered her face. I thought you'd never want to see me again. I almost didn't. She nodded. I understand. But then I realized something. I took a deep breath. My mother may have introduced us. But she couldn't have forced you to care. Emma's eyes filled with tears. And she definitely couldn't have forced me to fall in love. For several seconds neither of us spoke. Then she smiled. The same smile that had quietly filled an empty house with life. I was hoping you'd say that. I was hoping you'd still be single. She laughed. I've been waiting. I reached for her hand. This time. No secrets. No secrets. A year later we were married beneath giant oak trees on her grandmother's farm. Mom cried before the ceremony even started. Afterward she apologized to Emma once again. Emma hugged her tightly. If you hadn't been brave enough to interfere. She looked toward me. I would have never met the best man I've ever known. Mom smiled. I still shouldn't have lied. No, Emma agreed. But love sometimes begins in imperfect ways. 5 years have passed since then. Our home is filled with laughter, muddy shoes from 2 energetic children, burnt cookies from family baking days, and far more happiness than I ever imagined possible. Sometimes I still wake before sunrise and find Emma making pancakes. She catches me watching. What? I was just thinking. About work? I shake my head. No. About how one woman came to clean my house. And somehow rebuilt my entire life. She smiles the way she always has. Warm. Gentle. Honest. The truth is, my mother never really hired someone to watch over me. She simply sent kindness through another human being. Everything that mattered after that was a choice. Emma chose compassion. I chose forgiveness. My mother chose hope. And together, those choices proved something my father once told me as a little boy: the strongest homes are never built with bricks alone. They're built with people who quietly choose to love each other, especially when someone has forgotten how to believe they deserve it.